Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com NFL Championship Sunday, a doubleheader today. This is a gambler's paradise. First, Green Bay Packers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the secondary game. Kansas City Buffalo Bills. What a day to be alive. And Tampa Bay's.
It's going to be awesome. And sorry, I thought I had the audio off on YouTube. There you go. Live show. I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun. We got 4 great quarterbacks, 4 teams, all of which could win. We're going to talk props, parlays, DFS. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. And then it's bittersweet because you're like, oh, wait, you're telling me there's no football next weekend. What the hell am I supposed to do with my time? Doesn't mean I have to hang out with my son and act like a dad, like all sorts of things that suck for us football guys. But today's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited for this show. I have a ton of props, 8 props per game, some long shots. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And thank you to everyone out there, waiting for the show to come on, liking the show before we even start. We appreciate those thumbs up. We appreciate all of you in the chat box. And, of course, our people behind the scenes making us look good as well, checking in on us on a Sunday morning. Really appreciate everybody. And, of course, excited to be with Donnie, the best host in the business.
There we go, man. Ready to rock and roll. 1-hour show, 2 games. We'll keep the same formula that we did last weekend. Looking at some DFS action sides, who's in, who's out. But we got the nice hour to slow down and really let it marinate. The good thing about this is I think we possibly, by the end of the day here, Kyle, on our YouTube channel, it says 79,800 subscribers. We'll get a lot of people in here for this one. Maybe people watching on the replay. Hit that subscribe button. By Monday morning, it would be beautiful to have 80,000 strong subscribed here heading towards the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. So thank you guys for all that support out there. Kyle is completely right. Coming here in the chat box, just letting it rip here. Your thoughts, what you think is going to happen in this game, because the one thing I love about this, Kyle, this isn't like, the NCAA with football playoff where you have like a 21-point line, 85-point total. Look at these games here as we set up and just take a quick look. Green Bay Packers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, -3. Buffalo, Kansas City, -3. What a wonderful day. Not a lot of weather concerns to worry about either, Kyle. We should have some clean slates here with our breakdowns.
Yeah, the weather's not bad. I know everyone, snow in Green Bay. If any of you have watched any pregame, looked at it, the field is absolutely clean. It's a professional stadium. Yes. Not a lot of wind. Is it cold? Yeah. I'm in the same conditions right now. I'm literally 26 degrees and snowing and probably 10 degrees colder out here in the studio. It's cold. Absolutely. But it's going to be, I don't anticipate weather being a big factor. Actually, when you sort of look at Kansas City right now, it looks real gray, a little dingy. I think that might affect some of the Bills offense more. We'll get to that game. But for this time of the year, games in Kansas City and Lambeau, it's going to be a clean slate, and we're going to have a lot of fun today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch the games. I can't wait to be right, wait to be wrong. Hear all the hate. It's a lose-lose for me in the NFC. I know me and you are on the same page. I can't stand Green Bay. I can't stand Tom Brady. Yeah. So I don't know what the hell I'm rooting for. Thank God for prop plays on the books today. But, it's going to be a lot of fun. Four deserving teams. You can't say either of these teams don't deserve to be there. They all deserve to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And the shame of it, too, with COVID, is usually we will be heading down, both Mikhail and myself, for a nice trip to Costa Rica. But that's not going to be the case this week, so we can still enjoy. But I remember doing those games. And obviously, when I've flown down to Costa Rica to the Eagles game, Tom Brady was in that Super Bowl. But it was my Eagles. It was incredibly stressful, incredibly hard to break down. And it was tough to be away. But I always say things happen for a reason. I was supposed to be in Costa Rica. Otherwise, the Eagles probably would have lost that Super Bowl. But then again, even the following year, going for the Rams, where they played, once again, Tom Brady and the Patriots. And all we kept saying, like even all the cappers that would come on, is, boy, it would be really refreshing just to do a Super Bowl where you didn't have to talk Tom Brady and, oh my goodness, it's the same thing every year. And I already know, and again, people in the chat box know I can't stand Green Bay either. But it'd be more refreshing for me, Kyle, hearing about Aaron Rodgers possibly getting his second ring as opposed to Tom Brady, Gronkowski, LFG. Come on, man.
Yeah, seriously. There's a lot of things. There's inappropriate things I would rather watch than Tom Brady again in the Super Bowl. But look, just sort of like an overview, when you're looking at value today and you're looking at the plus money on that money line for Tampa Bay, they have a great shot to beat this team. And we'll talk about how they get there here in a second as you lead us into it. But unfortunately, Tampa Bay has a legit shot today because they have the formula defensively that will cause Aaron Rodgers problems. I'm with you. Please, God, no more Tom Brady Super Bowl talk. I just can't take it. I mean, that game is going to be painful. I guess the good thing will be in the Super Bowl, no matter who goes from the AFC, I will be rooting so hard against Brady. It'll give me a nice rooting side. but I'd be doing the same thing for the Packers. I don't know. I can't stand them both. I don't know what the hell to think. I'm in a glass case of emotion like Ron Burgundy was. That's how I feel about both of these teams.
It's interesting because the second thing he says, can't bet with your heart. You're right. Like I have money on sides that I'm actually rooting for the other side of my money today, which is ludicrous, but that's where you separate and just say, you know what? If I have money on this game, you put it in, you say, this is the best I have, and cheer on whichever way it is. Because, hey, if they lose, you win because your team won. And if you lose that way, you won because you had money in that. It's a great way to look at it where you can't cheer for your fans. Say, I want the Eagles. I'm going to bet them every week. Or if you're a 49ers fan, I'm going to bet the 49ers every week. There's no way I can do it. It's the same people in the DFS world. There's no way in Philadelphia you can have a Dallas Cowboys player on your DFS roster if you're a real fan. Shut the hell up with that. Let's get after the game here. 3-11, 3-12, Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Look at this line. 3s to 3.5, back to 3, back to 3.5, back to 3. Interesting doings in this game because if we're looking at the headlines here coming in, obviously we know it's Tom Brady. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers. But how about this? From last week's game, Kyle, as we take a look, some interesting things here where one team lost 2 starters during the week. One, obviously, with Antonio Brown, got injured in the game last week, said it was no big deal, but all of a sudden ruled out on Friday. And now you have a Friday injury to Antoine Winfield Jr., the safety. He's going to miss this game as well. Down 2 guys here, Kyle, as we take a look heading into this game.
Yeah, and the Antoine Winfield one is sort of a big one. The Tampa Bay secondary was already overmatched to begin with coming into this game. They're the worst secondary left in the playoffs of these 4 teams. Now, look, none of them are great players. I guess you'd say Carlton Davis is probably the best one. He's sort of up and down. Looked like he was an emerging star, then comes back. But Antoine Winfield is sort of that big play guy. He's got the speed. The other safety, James Whitehead, he's okay. He's pretty meh. Antoine Winfield gets those big explosive plays, a hard hitter. So that is a big loss. And if you're a Green Bay fan, it's just one more reason why you're a little bit excited. Maybe finally Rodgers gets past this, NFC championship problem. I mean, you look at his last 3, he's been absolutely dominated. He looked bad against the 49ers, the Falcons. I forget the third team already. I mean, it's been so many of them, but it's a big loss, those injuries. And of course, Antonio Brown. So it opens up some value in DFS, but it also takes away, there's no doubt about it. Tom Brady loved throwing the ball to Antonio Brown. He has some sort of rapport with him. So it is a big loss. Do I think that's the key to the game? I don't. I think more of the key of this game is going to be the Green Bay offensive line versus that Tampa Bay blitz. And we'll go over some of those stats, but I think that's the main factor. But hey, anytime you can take away probably their most explosive safety, that's big for the Green Bay Packers.
No, it is. And he was very good against the pass. And obviously, it does have a couple sacks on the season, which is very rare from a safety coming in a blitzing position outside of like a Jamal Adams up in Seattle. So, I mean, it's not a huge loss. Like overall, if you take a look at some services that rate him, Pro Football Focus has about mid-range in the safety position. But you also talk about a guy who's a rookie, he's getting better as the season goes on. And also, you're talking about you figured this guy into your game plan all week. Then on Friday, he goes down with an injury. Now you only have a couple of days to say, all right, he's going to be taken out. Who's going to fill in his spot and get ready to play? Also, on the other side, looking at King is also going to play the cornerback for the Green Bay Packers. Again, it's not so much that he's a really good football player, but just adds another, I'm a starter, I'm a depth guy. It's better than actually not having it. What would you say, Kyle? Like the other way around, if that makes sense, because it's not about the injury that you have up front. Because now when you look at Tampa Bay in the secondary, Antoine Winfield is out. Backup comes in, Kyle. What happens if you get dinged up at that position? Now you're on your third string guy going up against Aaron Rodgers. That makes a certain difference in these games. But taking a look at the line, I think it is a fair line. Not a huge home field advantage outside of Green Bay being at home, but that still is an advantage. And the one thing us handicappers look at time and time again is a rested football team versus what should be a tired football team. Green Bay got the only bye in the NFC. They played last week. They won that football game. They've been home for a few weeks. Now you look on the opposite side with Tampa Bay, a wild card team on the road against Washington, on the road against New Orleans, on the road against Green Bay. Hard to do that 3 straight games here, Kyle, to pull off the victory.
Yeah, it sure is. And just to answer Eric's question, you had the minus 220 on liquor being in my cup. It's all liquor, 100%. So if you could have taken the prop on 100% liquor, maybe lowered that number to minus 150 or something, that would have been a bit better number. But you're right. Yeah, the Packers are rested. I think the line is absolutely right. So when you look at, just go back to the first game, and this rings true for pretty much any quarterback. But when you look at that game, it was 10-0 Green Bay, and then Tampa Bay blitzed the hell out of Aaron Rodgers, and that offensive line couldn't hold up. When you look at it, Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times, threw a couple interceptions, including the pick 6. Tom Brady sacked 0 times. So Tampa Bay, it's no secret. Todd Bowles already says, we're coming in here, we're blitzing. They blitzed him on 64% of his pass attempts in that first game. You're going to continue to see the blitz from Tampa Bay. They blitzed the second most in the entire league, and that's how they get pressure. If the Green Bay offensive line can hold up against that blitz at Tampa Bay, they're going to win this football game. If they can't, if that stat line is the same where Tom Brady doesn't hit the turf once and Aaron Rodgers does 5 times, Tampa Bay is going to the Super Bowl. That is the bottom line. It is about Green Bay needs to pressure Tom Brady, and Green Bay needs to protect Aaron Rodgers. That is how you get to this team. If they can give him just a little over 2 seconds, those wide receivers should dominate that Tampa Bay secondary. But we saw it in the first one. If the blitz gets to him, and Tampa Bay's offensive line is the number 1 rated offensive line in terms of pass blocking. The one real hiccup they had was that game against Tampa Bay back in October. If that's what happens, Tampa Bay is going to the Super Bowl. And you'll start seeing, Aaron Rodgers channeling his inner Eli Manning with that pouty face on the sideline. That's the matchup: front 7 blitz versus Tampa Bay, and that offensive line for Green Bay. If those stats remain the same from the first game, Tampa Bay is going to the Super Bowl. But today, for me, I do think they get it done. I think they're a better team. I like Devontae Adams in his matchup back there. I like Valdez-Scantling. We'll talk about some props. Someone already talked about the long shot prop that I have, but I got it at a much better number. But it's a real interesting game. To me, it's offensive line versus defensive line. That's what's going to decide this game.
Yeah, playing hot as well. I mean, you're taking a look at 2 coaches like Matt LaFleur. We always kid and joke around about Matt LaFleur, but the record is what the record is. And they've been sensational since Matt LaFleur has taken over, stumbling last year in the NFC title game, which again, I thought San Francisco was the best overall team in the NFL, a throw or 2 away. They're a Super Bowl championship, but hey, Kansas City earned it last year. Now coming back again, the Green Bay Packers going into the NFC championship game instead of being on the road, now at home. And you're right. Antonio Brown's a big loss. Not to say because I don't think Antonio Brown's skill level wise at his age is better than Godwin or Mike Evans, but it's pretty clear the rapport. You're right. He led the team in targets, since he's been available to play for Tampa Bay. Now he's going to be taken out. Yeah, we always joke. I love Scotty Miller's everything I wanted to be as a wide receiver in college, but I just wasn't fast enough or good enough as obviously the kids made it to the NFL. He's going to now step in, and yeah, we like the speed, but it's not Antonio Brown who's been there, done that, hundreds of catches in the NFL, been in big game situations and has played extremely well. That is going to be a slight downgrade. The one interesting part as well for Tampa Bay on their side is Ronald Jones was effective last week. I believe 13 carries for close to 65 yards. He's going to have to be big again in this game, because when you looked at the game plan last week versus the New Orleans Saints, if you just said, oh my goodness, look, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay offense scored 30 points in that football game. They were basically, until that last drive where they ran the clock out and picked up the extra 25 yards, under 300 yards for the game. Scoring drives that was a thing of beauty. 7 plays, 81 yards, and a touchdown. They scored on drives, I continuously say, 3, 20, and 40 yards in that, because they picked up on 4 turnovers by the New Orleans Saints. That's not going to be the case today. So if Tom Brady wants to win this football games, it's going to be a lot of 12, 13 play drives, dinking and dunking down the field. That's the way I see it as your pathway to victory for Tampa Bay. Can they do it? Maybe, because they do have a really good defense, athletic linebackers, a decent secondary, and they already beat the Green Bay Packers. But for my money, and sometimes it just comes down to this, and it's been true, Kyle, the entire playoff run, the markedly better quarterback is Aaron Rodgers in this football game. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Aaron Rodgers, this is going to piss off some Brady fans, but this is a fact. Aaron Rodgers is a more talented and better quarterback than Tom Brady. If you take Tom Brady, put him on the Packers with, Mike McCarthy, and you take Aaron Rodgers and put him on New England, he probably has more titles than Tom Brady. He is a better quarterback, and he's playing better than he ever has in his career. It's clear that them drafting Jordan Love really did put that chip on his shoulder to start the year, and he has been lights out. But the kryptonite for Aaron Rodgers will be, just like it is for any quarterback, if his line can't hold up against the blitz. Todd Bowles is going to blitz the hell out of Aaron Rodgers today. He's going to see a ton of pressure. Hopefully, Matt LaFleur doesn't have his head up his keister here and can game plan a proper game plan. That means leave Aaron Jones on the field, get him out into the flat, quick passing routes, discourage them from blitzing, get your offensive line set up, get them some confidence, and then you just start torching them down the field. I do think Marquez Valdez-Scantling can make some big plays here. There's going to be a lot of attention paid to Devontae Adams today. If they can hold up against that blitz for just an extra tick, that's all it takes. The big plays will be available down the field. The 2 corners on this slate, out of all the teams here, who have been targeted the most and give up the most yards per catch, fantasy points per play, whatever stat you want to use, are those two corners for Tampa Bay, Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy-Bunting in the slot. Allen Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, those tertiary targets could be big today for the Green Bay Packers. And you're right, the path for Tampa, run the football. Green Bay struggles against the run. They do have a good secondary. Jair Alexander, Kevin King, these guys are good players. Tampa Bay needs to run the football. Ronald Jones being healthy will be a big addition for them if he's able to sort of take over the mantle and take the majority of the carries away from Leonard Fournette. Tampa Bay has a good chance today.
No, you're right about that, because I think that it's hard to say that's the way to victory, because you really don't do that all that much in the NFL anymore. Yeah, but when you see some of the tweets coming out as they should go a lot of 12 personnel, and what that means is 2 tight end sets, I completely agree with that. Gronk and Braid out there, you can use some play action to go off of it, but control the game and keep them guessing, because you're right. If we take a look at overall at the defenses, Pro Football Focus list the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the 5th overall defense, the Green Bay Packers the 8th overall defense, but you see the drop off there. Green Bay doesn't stop the run all that well, but is an elite coverage unit, and also one of the single best cornerbacks in the NFL. So if you can line up Alexander, let's say, over, Evans, you don't have Antonio Brown as the code breaker in the middle anymore. And now you're going to rely on Godwin, which, can you see this game come through? Damn it, Godwin, catch the football. I mean, that really could come down to it, that we've seen those dropsies happen. And now if you're going to have the drops there and not the other guys to pick you up, that could be different. Also, we have the recency bias that we love to look at as well. There's no better football team in the NFL to play defense from a frontline perspective, a linebacker perspective, and a secondary perspective than the Los Angeles Rams. Last week, 485 yards the Green Bay Packers dropped right on their head. Now, last week, again, when we're talking about the bye issue, Green Bay was rested, ready, waiting with the game plan for the Rams and blew them off the field. Now, they won't be as rested and as ready because they both had to play last week, but Green Bay's not taking planes. Green Bay's resting at home. Green Bay's on their own soil. They're in their own stadium, the friendly confines of Lambeau. I think it's too much to overcome. I think the line is cheap at 3. Green Bay wins this football game for me, but I have it a lot differently. I see the over-under raising up and it continually goes higher. There is a chance for that. I don't think the weather's really going to impact it, but I got 28-20 Green Bay in this one.
Yeah, I loved the over 51 earlier in the week. It's a shame that it's moved up. If you got the number earlier in the week, congratulations to you. Now it gets a little dicey right at that number. You sort of need everything to go right. But I'm with you. I like Green Bay to win this game. I do think that top-rated offensive line can go back and watch how Tampa Bay blitzes. Aaron Rodgers is a smart guy and one of the smartest guys to ever play the position. Love him or hate him. I mean, look, his whole family hates him, for Christ's sake, so it's hard to love Aaron Rodgers. But the fact of the matter is he's a very smart guy. If he can get his offensive line shifted to where they need to be and buy himself some time, I agree. I think Green Bay has the slightly better defense, especially with that secondary. Now, Tampa Bay is terrific against the run. There's no doubt about it. They're the best rushing defense in the NFL. But if you're an offense and you know it's going to be hard to run, who would you rather have than Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Jones, a terrific receiving back out of the backfield. So I'm going to go with the Packers. I do like the Green Bay Packers, but I don't think you're crazy for taking the Bucs. I'll be honest with my own money. I do have money on a Packers Chiefs parlay and some other stuff, but I also hedge with Tampa Bay because I think there's too much value there, and there are so many paths to victory for them. So I did take Tampa Bay as a hedge bet, but for me, my official pick will be Green Bay, and I'm going to lean. I'll go over the 51. I think you're about right what you said the score. 53.5, 53 gets a little too high for me. I'll take the under that number if you're betting it today. If you had it earlier in the week, I do like the over 51.
Yeah, offense has been really good for Tampa Bay, humming down the stretch and even towards the playoffs. Point-wise, at least, the Washington game, they put up a lot of yards. The New Orleans game, they didn't put up a lot of yards. But you can also say they had back-to-back home games in the middle of the season in late November versus the Rams in Kansas City. They ended up losing both of those games, 27-24. And then they played Minnesota, who stinks, Atlanta, who stinks, Detroit, who stinks, Atlanta, who stinks, Washington, who stinks, and then beat New Orleans, which is a nice win going on the road to win. But let's be real about what we saw out of Drew Brees in that football game, not able to push it. So if you're an attacking defense and you go, he can't throw 25 yards, get after his ass and compress everything. You know what Aaron Rodgers does for that? Flick of the wrist down the field, 65 yards on the run. That can change up the entire dynamics. We'll see if it plays into it. But again, we talked about this during the week, the Tuesday show and the Thursday show. we're really taking a pin against a balloon here and trying to find some water to come out of that balloon. These are two really good football teams and equally deserving to be in this spot. That's why that line is 3. So I'm just trying to look at some outside the box type of thoughts here. And the one that continuously comes up for me, rested, ready at home versus tired on the road and weary. I'll take that all the time. Now, let's take a look at some prop bets in this game to go over. If I'm looking, I actually have 4 prop bets in this game, only 2 prop bets in the Kansas City Buffalo game. The 2 I have, and it's actually 2 for each team. For Tampa Bay, I'm going strictly running back in this. Leonard Fournette over 23.5 receiving yards in this game. I think he's going to be, obviously, if Ronald Jones comes back, Fournette's still going to be that third down back. I have Tampa Bay losing in the fourth quarter, so that's where you can pick up 2 catches out of the backfield for 10 to 15 yards just on dump-offs if I still need to pick that up. Last week against New Orleans, Kyle, 5 catches for 49 yards out of Leonard Fournette. I think that shapes up well. Now, as we like to talk about the pathway to victory for the Tampa Bay Bucs and how they'll succeed, they're going to have to be effective running the football. That's not with Leonard Fournette. That's with a healthy Ronald Jones II. His number is 33.5 yards on the ground. Last week, still banged up, 13 for 62. I think he can get 40 yards rushing in this game. Those are my 2 from the Tampa Bay side. If we flip it over from a Green Bay perspective, I always laugh. I like to get that secondary wide receiver. Devontae Adams is going to catch his. He's going to get his touchdowns and his catches. But I always look at the opposite side of the field with the targets. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, over 30.5 receiving yards last week against the Rams, close to that number. 4 catches for 33, was able to get that. Also, if we take a look from a running back perspective on Green Bay, the dump-offs, if you feel that front 7 and that pressure is going to get home to Aaron Rodgers, that means a lot of dump-offs out of the backfield, and that's going to mean Jones receptions over 24.5 yards in this one. Last week only had 1 catch for 14 yards, but I think the pressure might get home in this one. He'll get some dump-offs there, so that's where I'm going with Aaron Jones. What are we looking at prop bets from you guys here, Kyle?
Well, we got a lot of similar ones here, and I have 8 with including a long shot. I went overboard on the props. If you're on Twitter out there, you follow me on Twitter, I released those as well. So Ronald Jones, I've got that one. I agree with you 100%. If you're looking for a long shot, let's start with the long shot because we love doing those. We hit one of those on the Monday night show. It's a lot of fun. So I took Marquez Valdez-Scantling over 150 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns at plus 11,000. Is it unlikely? Look, I'm not telling you to put your mortgage on this, but if you want to throw a few, I mean, you can literally throw $10 on that and win $1,100 if it happens. So if you like to have a little bit of fun, that would be my long shot in the game. So now going over all the props, Valdez-Scantling over 2.5 catches. I love that. I think you're right. Some big play upside there. He gets the 3 catches. I also have got MVS over 32.5 yards receiving, so I got a couple yards less value there. I've got Tom Brady under 285.5 yards passing. The reason for that, not that I don't think he can get there, it's that I do think they rely on the running game. That's the weakness of the Green Bay Packers. I still like the Tampa Bay team total at 23.5 going over. 28-24 makes a ton of sense to me in this game. But I do have Brady under 285.5. I've got Devontae Adams over 89.5. No chance they can guard him. In his worst game of the year, their worst game when he was just coming back from injury or about to be hurt in that first game, he still had 6 for 61. He definitely gets to 89.5 against that vulnerable secondary. I also have Aaron Jones over 24.5 receiving yards. You're absolutely right with the blitz coming out of the backfield. That could happen on one play. I've got Aaron Rodgers over 24.5 completions. Again, Tampa Bay, the best rushing defense in the NFL. The path to success is going to be through the arm of Aaron Rodgers. Love over 24.5. I also have Rob Gronkowski over 30.5 yards receiving. Now, that might seem a little bit weird, but again, the last couple of weeks, Tampa Bay has been playing teams with tremendous pass rushes in Washington and New Orleans. That's not the case for Green Bay. They're actually one of the worst pass rushes. Not worst, but lower middle of the league. They don't put a ton of pressure on the quarterback. So they're not going to have to use that fantastic blocking ability of Gronkowski that they've used the last couple of weeks. I think he gets into more patterns and hits that over 30.5. And my last one, my boy, we're going to talk about a pain play on DFS, Tyler Johnson, at least 14 yards receiving today. No Antonio Brown. I know everyone loves Scotty Miller. If you remember back earlier in the year when Evans and Brown were down, Evans and Godwin, the guy that Tom Brady really liked to go to was that young kid, Tyler Johnson. I think he gets over that 13.5 easy today. If you put all those together, minus the Brady yardage, plus 3,900 if you parlay those together. If they all hit, enjoy the sizzler, boys.
Yeah, it's interesting that you take that angle because even if you go back with Tom Brady, who was his favorite target in New England? Slot receiver Julian Edelman. Who was his most, reps and targets during the season? Antonio Brown, slot receiver. So whoever is able to pop in and do a little bit of damage out of that, they're going to get targeted. So it's a pretty good look to try to take a look here. Quickly on fantasy aspect here, quarterbacks in this game, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, 6,500 on DraftKings for Aaron Rodgers. Brady at 6,100 on my millionaire today. I don't have either one of these two quarterbacks, but I have to say, if I'm looking for a quarterback who I think has the chance to throw the most touchdowns in this game and possibly put up the most points fantasy-wise, it's Aaron Rodgers for me at 6,500. But I could see Tom Brady because from my capping, I have him losing in the fourth quarter, so maybe he can pile up some junk yards.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, you're absolutely right. Rodgers has the upside of throwing more touchdowns because Tampa Bay is a much more dominant run-stopping defense.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, it won't shock me if they have 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns today, whereas for Green Bay, I expect them to come through the air. So I like Aaron Rodgers. I played a bunch of lineups, so I have a little bit of exposure to both, but certainly more. My highest owned quarterback today is actually Aaron Rodgers. I know the rushing upside of the other quarterbacks, but I love his price. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot today.
And keep moving here. Running back Aaron Jones, 6,500. Fournette, 5,300. Ronald Jones now back into the equation at 4,600. A.J. Dillon, who is active for this game, he's at 4,000. But as we talked about, pretty good run-stopping defense here, not allowing runners to cross the goal line as opposed to wide receivers. I don't have any of these running backs in my play today. What are you looking at from that perspective?
Well, I love the value of Ronald Jones. Real quick, too, guys, 350 people watching, 56 thumbs up. Can we get to that 100, please? Nuke Worker, I appreciate you in the chat box. Get out there, get it on. Don't make me tell Flash to put on his wig and get in here like young Flash and yell at you guys. Hit the thumbs up button for us. Really appreciate that. Aaron Jones, I do think, has some upside. He's the most expensive running back, but he's not overly priced. Again, we talked about how he should be effective in the passing game. The real risk, of course, is Matt LaFleur is a dumbass and doesn't play him on enough snaps. And you're sitting here, channeling your inner dodgeball, saying, cram it in your cram hole, LaFleur. And that could happen today, but I do like the upside there. I love the value for Ronald Jones. 4,600 on DraftKings is too cheap. If he's healthier than last week, if he's getting that 13 to 15, 16, 17 carries, he can absolutely hit value. And I don't mind him scoring a touchdown today as well. Love Ronald Jones at 4,600. I think Fournette is okay priced at 5,300. If you're playing FanDuel at 7,200, absolutely no way. No thank you on Leonard Fournette. Ronald Jones and Aaron Jones are both good options today for me.
Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, 8,000, leaving the charge here on DraftKings. Mike Evans, 5,800. Godwin, 5,400. Antonio Brown, who's not going to play, was priced at 4,700. Lazard, 4,200. Valdez-Scantling, 3,900. Scotty Miller, 3,400. Looking at those, I went more of the mid routes here as opposed to taking the high ends with Devontae Adams. So what are you looking at here, wide receiver side?
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I think there's enough value where you can play Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I have several lineups that way. But there is value with that Tampa Bay passing game. Is the Green Bay secondary good? Yes, they allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this year. One of the tougher matchups on paper. Of course, the better matchups, I talked about it earlier in the show, are against that Tampa Bay secondary. But Evans and Godwin are cheap. If this was regular season week 5, Mike Evans would be 7,000 and Godwin would be 6,500. So you're getting them at a discounted rate. So it's just something to, especially if you're one of those people out there like, look, the Bucs are going to the Super Bowl, then you should have a ton of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in your lineup because they are too cheap. If they hit their ceiling, they're going to hit 10 times value, 8 times value. So that's something there. In terms of low price receivers, I love this game. Lazard's in play. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, we've already talked about it, absolutely in play. And then my pain play, as we used to like to talk about on our DFS shows, Tyler Johnson at minimum salary. I think Tyler Johnson hits value today. Scotty Miller will be the more popular option. I'm going to pivot in tournaments, try to win the $1 million and go over to Tyler Johnson.
Tight ends, Tunyon, 3,600, Gronk, 3,200. And I went Cameron Brate in my lineup for 3,000 even. What are we looking from a tight end angle here?
Yeah. And again, I think Gronk is more valuable today. I do think you see him run more routes today than you have in the previous 2 weeks because it's not the same kind of pass rush. That's going to free him up to be involved in the passing game. Again, no Antonio Brown. Will not be surprised if Rob Gronkowski scores a touchdown today as he did in that first meeting. If you look at that first meeting between these teams, who was their leading receiver? It was Rob Gronkowski, and he got a touchdown in that game. Robert Tunyon, I like Robert Tunyon playing more and more and more snaps. So Tunyon, Gronkowski, and of course, our boy Cameron Brate sitting there at 3,000 has been a nice complimentary target as well.
Cheap number here on the Buccaneers, 2,700 here on fantasy. I think that's the least owned, or it should be the cheapest defense out there. Packers at 3,600.
Yeah, and again, I don't have a ton of either one of these defenses. I actually went the other game because both of these quarterbacks are pretty turnover averse. These aren't guys that you expect to go out there and turn over the football, and that's what you're looking at, right? With a DFS defense. I will say, if you're a Bucs backer and you think the Bucs are going to win, that means you think the blitz is going to get to Aaron Rodgers. So your defense, you want your lineup to tell a story. Often, like we talk about with our bets, having your bets tell a story, you want your lineup to tell a story. So if you're a Bucs backer, playing the Tampa Bay Bucs makes a ton of sense because you're assuming they're going to get to Aaron Rodgers, get some sacks, and cause some mistakes. So from that perspective, good value on Tampa Bay. Don't have much Green Bay because I don't expect Brady to turn the ball over much.
By the way, also wrapping it up here, taking a look at Ronald Jones, had a big first game against Green Bay. And if you've watched any one of our shows all year long, the same thing from me kept coming out. Stop trying to be an almighty passing offense and feed the rock to Ronald Jones and let your offense filter through that. That's going to be the game plan here for Tampa Bay to try to win this game. Let's start talking about the second game, the AFC Championship game, 6:40 today, Eastern, 3:13, 3:14 on the rotation. Weather conditions up to the date. It's actually been bouncing around. You got a little bit more of a positive one today, not because the temperature's around 40 at kickoff, but those winds went from around 10, 11 miles an hour, dipping down underneath that, which is always a good thing. But I bring that up just in case because when we take a look here, Kyle, and I have a couple, old school type notes, as we like to say, which we used to do back in the industry, Kyle, before YouTube out here, how old we are capping these things. Yeah. Looking these at this way, look at the last 3 years with Kansas City. They've been in the playoffs. They played multiple games, specifically being at home. This will be the third straight time they host the AFC Championship. It's been cold all the time and all the way through. We looked at 2018, after coming up, they beat the Colts 36 degrees. They put up 31 points against the Colts defense, 433 yards. They lost to the Patriots in that brutally cold day, which an offside call sent the Patriots to the Super Bowl as opposed to the Kansas City Chiefs. Still angry because it cost me money. They still put up 31 points in that game versus the Patriots in frigid temperatures. In 2019, remember the Texans game? 51 points they put up in 35 degrees. Then we went over to the Titans game. 35 points put up in 18 degrees. Frigid day out there. Now we saw last week 42 degrees where they only scored 22 points. But keep in mind, 9 minutes on the clock. Patrick Mahomes goes out of the game in the third quarter. They probably end up in the 30s in that game as well. So when we look and say, who can't play? It's cold. It really favors Buffalo. Does it really favor Buffalo? Because the Chiefs don't give a damn, Kyle, what the hell the temperature is.
Yeah, and then, so let's say it was freezing cold and snowing. How would that favor Buffalo? They can't run the football. The Chiefs at least have some sort of semblance of a running game with Hilaire coming back. Who knows how effective he'll be? We'll talk about him, especially in the DFS side. And then Darrell Williams. The Bills are a terrible running team. Their running game is Josh Allen. Devin Singletary is garbage from a pure running back perspective. He's not very good. Is he good out of the passing game? Sure, he's got some speed, etc. But the Bills' running game is essentially non-existent. So the colder and worse, if you think we're just crazy and the weather and the weather's going to impact this game, it favors the Kansas City Chiefs, plain and simple, because the Bills have no running game. Man, I'm really looking forward to this game. Of course, I'm looking forward to the first one, but I love these young quarterbacks. This one's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, threes across the board, it looks like, for both of these games. But this one where we opened up around that 50 range, which, again, we weren't sure. I should say idiots weren't sure Mahomes was going to play, so they set the line at 50. We told you Mahomes was going to play. Sunday night, I told you Mahomes was going to play this week. And, of course, he is playing this week. But taking a look overall at some of the statistics, because if you just took the same narrative here that we all have, or most people have, Kansas City stinks on defense. Yo, Buffalo got that good defense out here. Well, let's take a look at some of the numbers here that compare. Kansas City, per game, 121 yards on the ground they give up. Buffalo, 123. Average on the ground per carry. Kansas City on defense, 4.5. Buffalo, 4.7. Take a look at pass yards per game. 233 for Kansas City. 234 for the Buffalo Bills. So take the notion as the last 3 years, like, yo, man, Buffalo plays that really good D. Kansas City can't stop anybody. Not true at all. They're basically the same exact defense on both sides that's going to play today. Now, I know we love Tre'Davious White and, boy, that Bills defense. Remember them last year, how good they were? It's not the same thing. And why is that? Because the year before and the year before that, the offensive game plan for Buffalo was Josh Allen, run around, try to make some plays. Let's see if we can get the 20 points. We'll slow the game down. Now, all of a sudden, you're in that modicum where you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs saying their defense stinks. They don't really stink. It's their offense jets you into the 30s, and you have to have, instead of stopping 10 drives, you got to stop 14 drives. And you're up 10 late in the game. Spagnuolo, your defensive coordinator, goes, hey, call off the dogs out here. Just let them do what they want and burn clock. That's where those touchdowns add up. So just that notion of Buffalo's defense is really good. It's not really good. It's the same exact defense that the Kansas City Chiefs have. Now, looking into this game, Patrick Mahomes, they think he probably didn't even have a concussion because of after the game saying, hey, it's one of those shots you take to the back and just scrambled you for a moment. He was out of the concussion protocol fairly quickly. Rashad Breeland took a little bit longer and ended up getting cleared over the weekend. So they're basically full go. The interesting one here is, who's not coming back? Sammy Watkins going to miss about, he's been out, I guess, now for the last month. Doesn't look like he's going to go today, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to go, which gives you a little bit more electricity out of the backfield. We'll see how healthy he is today, Kyle.
Yeah, and Helaire dominated that first game.
Yeah.
I mean, every point you just made, Donnie, was 100% perfect. It's what I've been trying to tell people. When you look at their rankings, it's really interesting defensively. It's Kansas City here, Buffalo right behind them. Buffalo ahead of them, Kansas City right. They're very, very similar. And actually, the run defense, which we get on the Chiefs for a lot, is not very good, is worse for Buffalo, especially in the red zone. Buffalo really struggles against the run in the red zone, and they have one standout player in that secondary, and that's Tre'Davious White. The rest of the players pretty meh. Levi Wallace, Teron Johnson, okay in the slot. The safeties, it's pretty mediocre. When you look at Kansas City, Rashad Breeland, really, really good. When you go back to that first game, he and Travarius Ward did a terrific job on Stephon Diggs, and they used a lot of bracket coverage. Might be a little bit easier today as well. John Brown is a big play threat. Gabriel Davis, it looks like he might give it a go. He's been pretty banged up, but it's really easy to game plan against Buffalo because, look, it's Josh Allen or nothing. When you go to the Chiefs side, Andy Reid will run the football. It's something that's sort of underrated when you watch them. When Helaire is going, go back and watch that first game against Buffalo. It wasn't, Patrick Mahomes is very efficient, 21 to 26, 222, a couple of touchdowns, no mistakes. Pretty much what you're always going to get out of Mahomes unless you get more yardage. But they have a better running game. So the Bills have to cover the entire field. The Chiefs are going to say, hey, if you run the ball, you run the ball. I don't see it happening. Devin Singletary as a lead back last week without Zach Moss, 7 carries. Think about that. 7 carries in a 17-3 game against Baltimore. He had 7 carries. How in the world is that a competent running game? So it makes things really easy for the Chiefs. Bracket Stephon Diggs, take their big play guy out, force John Brown, Cole Beasley, Isaiah McKenzie, and others, Dawson Knox to beat you. This is going to be a long day for Buffalo. Now, my heart, before I get too far on this, I want Buffalo to win this game. No one will be happier if Buffalo wins this game than I will be. I'm starting to get tired of the Chiefs narrative as well. I would love to see Josh Allen and the Bills in the Super Bowl. I just don't see it. I would be more surprised if Buffalo beats Kansas City than I would be if Tampa Bay beats Green Bay. I just think they're way too one-dimensional. And you mentioned it, the offsides penalty on D Ford. If it wasn't for that, we're talking about the 3rd straight Super Bowl and possibly, most likely, 3rd straight Super Bowl win for Mahomes in this offense. I like the Kansas City Chiefs today.
Then you talk about playoff football as well, where you think it's a little bit restricted, where maybe teams, punting more and maybe you throttle it down on offense. If we looked at those 2018, 2019, and certainly even used the 2020 game that or 2020 season where they just played the Cleveland Browns, they averaged just over 34 points per game in the playoffs at home here and 400 yards of offense. Now, it's a good thing if you like points because the counterbalance is Josh Allen, who has played extremely well this year, and Stephon Diggs has been amazing. They're going to be able to move the football. That's a really good offense. So they'll go toe-to-toe, but I think Kyle's point is right. Buffalo's not coming into this game saying, you know what? We're going to slow this game down and run the football and see what we can do. I actually think they're going toe-to-toe today and say, just let the best man win. Brian Dable is a fantastic offensive coordinator. Yeah. Andy Reid is an offensive coordinator. If you want to put like the Sean McVays, the Kyle Shanahan's, Andy Reid probably sits above top because his offenses each week seem brand new wrinkles of innovation that nobody seems to be able to do. And they're healthy coming into this football game. I think that gives an added advantage here. And also, I'd like to take a look at some guys who play and who don't play. Just the simple stuff like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's just say he's healthy today. They're a much more dynamic offense this entire year with him in the game as opposed to him not playing in this football game. Josh Allen's going to have a monster day. So if we take a look at some prop bets in this game, I only have 2 and they both, Kyle, even though I don't think Buffalo wins, they're both coming from the Buffalo side and on offense. Josh Allen on Fox Bet yesterday took it over 300.5 yards passing. They will be down in the fourth quarter. They will be airing it out. Josh Allen's going to drop back 40 times in this football game. He should be able to get that 300-yard marker. And then also from another passing perspective, Devin Singletary over 20.5 yards receiving. The same thing that I think with Tampa Bay in the fourth quarter, if they're down 10 with 2 minutes to go, the running back is absolute gold because they're saying, take these 10 yards underneath and keep moving the football, but also keep on moving the clock, winding it down. Those are my two bets there on that side. It's a fun game to break down, but actually, even though I had Kansas City winning, you think you'd be loading up on Kansas City props. It's from the opposite end because I like the losing team with junk yards in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because you have a brain and you're smart and you know this league. That's why Donnie is the best. Like, I go over this with people all the time, and it's like, God, you just don't seem to get it. And listen, when you've done it a long time and you've had as much success as Donnie has had at this, you get it. And that's how that works. Okay, so let's get started. Bear with me here because I, again, have a ton of props, so I hope I'm not too long-winded here. So first, a standalone long shot, plus 9,000. Again, this is a long shot, so don't whine at me on Twitter if you lost your $20. I don't give a damn. I really don't. I'll be hammered by that time. But Isaiah McKenzie over 100 yards and 1 touchdown at plus 9,000. Gabriel Davis looking a little banged up. Those good corners outside in the slot against L'Jarius Sneed, maybe Bo Pete Keys. You see some of these guys in the slot there. It's real bad. It's real bad once you get past it. When you really look at that roster, you're like, holy crap, this is really bad. So it's a long shot, but Isaiah McKenzie, look, you get 180-yard screen for a touchdown. You might be on your way to plus 9,000. So that's the one for fun. If you've got the guts, go ahead and have some fun there. The rest of them. So I got Josh Allen over 33.5 yards rushing. He will be the running game for that team today. Chris Jones creates pressure. Josh Allen's taken off. It's all or nothing, do or die. Josh Allen will run the ball today. I've also got Devin Singletary over 19.5 yards receiving. Again, a very good secondary, underrated secondary in Kansas City. I do expect some quick passes for Singletary out of the backfield over 19.5. Makes a ton of sense. I've got Tyreek Hill over 79.5 yards receiving. Fact of the matter is, I know a lot of people think Tre'Davious White is going to shadow Tyreek Hill. He doesn't go into the slot. In fact, when you look at it, Tre'Davious White lines up in the slot on defense on only 3% of his defensive coverage routes. When you flip that to the other side, Tyreek Hill lines up in the slot on 58% of his offensive routes. So Tyreek Hill won't see as much Tre'Davious White as we think. I like him over 79.5 yards. I also like Tyreek Hill over 5.5 catches. I think they get the ball to him in all sorts of ways today. He's their biggest playmaker. I've got Mahomes under 315.5. I think that number is too big because they do have a good enough running game and 2 running backs. I don't think he necessarily needs to get to the 300 yards. Again, Isaiah McKenzie, at least 18 yards receiving. I think he gets that pretty easily. And then to add some juice, to add some value, I took a Darrell Williams anytime touchdown at plus 200. Is Hilaire back? Yes. But when they get in the red zone, again, we talked about Buffalo's struggles in terms of stopping the run in the red zone, the worst team in the league in terms of the running in the red zone. Darrell Williams coming in, you know, he's still going to have a prominent role in the offense. So I'll take Williams anytime touchdown. And then I'll take a Travis Kelce anytime touchdown. He is their guy. If you parlay all those together minus the Mahomes passing, which they wouldn't let me do, plus 4,300. Let's eat some Sizzler, boys.
No, I love it, man. I love those long shot type of dogs you can have. It's well thought out stuff that you're coming up with here. When we take a look at this game, and again, the same thing is coming up from the first game. Like, you're talking about 2 elite football teams squaring off here. If you take out the game, obviously the Charger game that the Kansas City Chiefs had, which they didn't play any starters. If the Chiefs needed that game because they needed to clinch first, they would have blew the Chargers off the map. That would be 12 in a row heading into this football game. Then you take a look at the Buffalo Bills, who are already wins of 8 in a row coming in. So this isn't like, hey, man, it's going to be a blowout. I mean, look, there is a pathway for the Buffalo Bills and Tampa Bay to win these football games.
Of course.
When you look at Mahomes on its side, right, because the knock on the Kansas City Chiefs is they don't cover the spread, right? Well, when you're covering 15, 17, 9.5, 7.5, okay, you're still winning those football games. Maybe you're giving up in the fourth quarter. But now you see it at 3, and you go over the numbers like Patrick Mahomes, like 25-1 in his last 20. Like, that is absurd. Like, you're not even looking at coming into the game and saying, hey, if we can hang inside of 14 points, you're saying to them, this guy never loses. But you're going to have to win this football game basically to cover your spread in this one. I just can't go against it. I have the elite play caller with Andy Reid, a spot that the Kansas City Chiefs are used to being in here. Yes, the Bills have had an awesome year, a damn good football team, well coached all the way through, nice wins over the past 2 weeks over the Colts and also obviously the Baltimore Ravens. Both of those were at home, but now you go on the road and you're meeting that filet mignon team that as long as Mahomes is healthy, and it looks like he is, he does have a turf toe, but you shoot that up right before the game. He has no ill will or feeling on that. We also saw him scrambling around quite well after he got that injured toe before getting knocked out of the football game. When I sit back and watch, I don't want to be the guy that says, I bet against Mahomes at home -3. Are you kidding me? I deserve to lose.
No.
Like that. Sometimes it really comes down to that when you line these up. I still like the Chiefs either way. But again, when you're looking at both of these football games, I just bet against Aaron Rodgers at home in Green Bay and 25 degrees in the playoff -3. What am I doing? That's the way I feel.
Yeah. I mean, and just for reference, Aaron Rodgers has won something like 84 of 102 games at home. So, yeah, you look pretty stupid when you do those sorts of things. And, of course, the Mahomes thing. Look, I know Buffalo has been a head-scratcher against the spread all year long. But, no, it's 3 points. Or, excuse me, Kansas City has been a head-scratcher. Could Buffalo win? Sure. They're a fantastic team. I love Buffalo. I will be rooting for Buffalo so hard. I want to see Josh Allen and the Bills in the Super Bowl so much. I just see an uphill climb to get there. I'm with you. I've got the Chiefs -3. I've got the Packers -3. I know it's chalk, square, whatever the hell you want to call it. I think that's what happens today. And I will say this just for everyone watching. I have a buddy who loves Tom Brady and he hates Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so I bet, and we do these bets all the time. He always hits me up last minute. Hey, let's bet on this. And it's always some stupid. And no matter what, if I've got Mike Tyson and he's got Buster Douglas, guess what? Buster Douglas wins. I don't understand it. He's the most annoying friend I have. I love him to death, but he seems to always get lucky. Just for reference, he took Bills-Bucs today. I took Packers-Chiefs. We've got $100 on each game. So just so you know, I may have jinxed it all for all of us Chiefs-Packers backers, but it's going to be a lot of fun regardless. But I'm with you. I like Chiefs-Packers. Worst case, what do you go, 1-1? Yeah, give me Chiefs-Packers.
Yeah, look at the service that I subscribe to with the market percentages. It looks pretty even today. Buffalo getting 54% of the tickets in here. And it looks like obviously 46% for Kansas City. And the same thing in the Green Bay game, but Tampa Bay pulling down 46% of the bets offshore and Green Bay at 54%. So I guess it would be slightly public Green Bay, slightly public the Buffalo Bills betting strategies today. So we'll see how it plays out. But if we take a look at the numbers, I mean, again, they're threes across the board if you want them either way. And you don't have to pay all that much for those. And you're also looking at the over-unders, 54.5 and 53. Both of those creep higher. Everybody likes to bet overs. But I guess as the week went on, we were looking at some rough conditions in Kansas City last Sunday, talking about snow. Then it went to 55 degrees. Then it dipped back to 32, and that's about to 38. But light winds in both of these games. Both of these teams should be able to operate quite easily here. Quick thing here on the DraftKings. We'll take a look at the secondary game. Patrick Mahomes, 7,600 on DraftKings. Josh Allen, 6,900. I actually have Josh Allen as my millionaire quarterback this week at 6,900 because, again, if he has 225 yards entering into the fourth quarter and they're down, I'm going to get a 300-yard day, possibility of 2 to 3 touchdown passes. I'm in on that.
Yeah, and I agree. Both of these quarterbacks represent the higher rushing upside for running backs, which is very important in daily fantasy. A lot of you maybe don't play daily fantasy, but you want those rushing yards from quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is always more valuable than a Matthew Stafford, and Stafford will throw for 3 times more yards, but Lamar Jackson's getting the rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen's a terrific red zone running quarterback as well. You've got that rushing touchdown upside. And, we'll see how Patrick Mahomes' foot feels. The toe, the foot might impact him a little bit. Coming back from a concussion, you would assume the higher rushing upside is Josh Allen. So I'm with you. I prefer Josh Allen out of these two quarterbacks.
All right, moving on to running back in this game. Some interesting options here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back. He's the top back in this one at 5,000 even. Williams at 4,800. Singletary at 4,500. I actually like Williams and Singletary in this game here to pick up some slack. I want to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 100% going in this game, he's going to be hell on wheels. I just don't think that's the case. So I still think Williams is the key on the ground here, Kyle, for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I love Darrell Williams. I have a ton of him. And I will tell you why I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Not because it's not risky. Look, this guy could play 2 snaps this whole game and just not feel right.
Yeah, correct.
Again, they're not going to really decide before pregame, which is exactly why
we don't know anyway. He might be active and just say, hey, he's active, and we got like 3 plays for him today. So we don't know that. You're right.
Exactly. And that's the risk. But one good thing when you're playing draft, again, this is a 2-game slate. So we're trying to be different, right? We're trying to find this leverage where we can stand out from the rest of the field as opposed to, holding hands with 25,000 people across the finish line tied in first place. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when a player is coming back from injury, they've been questionable all week long. I've been playing DraftKings for a long, long time. I've been covering it for a long time. Players like that, they have these weird games where they go off and they're under-owned because of all the risk. It's all about your risk tolerance here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, look, he could make the slate, he could break the slate and go off for 35, or he could totally screw your team over and get you, half a point. I'm going to take the lower ownership leverage, go for broke. It's our last 2-game slate. So I've actually got tons of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That injury situation will drive down his ownership, making him unique. But you're absolutely right. Singletary going to be on the field the whole game, receiving upside. Darrell Williams, I do think, scores a touchdown. So all 3 running backs a nice value on this slate.
One of wide receivers, I loaded up top. I went Tyreek Hill 7,200 and also made room for Stephon Diggs at 7,000. Then it drops off John Brown 4,300, Beasley at 4,100, and healthy now apparently in this game. Might be some massive upside on him. Mecole Hardman at 4,000 and Robinson at 3,700, and your boy Pringle 3,200.
Ooh, Byron Pringle, and I always love me some Byron Pringle, you know that. But the usual suspects: Hardman, Robinson for value, yep. Cole Beasley, Isaiah McKenzie. Again, this is a 2-game slate. So look, is it likely that John Brown outscores Isaiah McKenzie? Sure, but more people are going to play John Brown. Do you want to try to do something different? You got to find that leverage. So for me, I am trying to look for that leverage. Could my team absolutely bomb and finish it? I'm either going to finish in last place or all alone in first place, because scared money doesn't make money. But all those receivers in play, love Diggs. Tyreek Hill would be my favorite wide receiver. Obviously, nobody can cover him. I will say that first game that they played, Stephon Diggs, still, with all of that attention they paid him, still had 17 DraftKings points. Tyreek Hill only 6. I expect a reversal of that today. I love Tyreek Hill quite a bit today.
Yeah, there should be some big numbers at wide receiver in that game, because if we get a combined 80 dropbacks, there's some explosive guys on both sides. I think we get some points there. Travis Kelce, 8,000 at tight end. Dawson Knox. It's crazy. One guy's at 8,000. The other guy's at 2,800 as the lead tight end for the opposite team. It's an amazing drop off, even all the way down. I mean, everybody basically is 2,500 outside of Travis Kelce here. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, Travis Kelce, if you look at just the fantasy numbers, would be a top 3 wide receiver this year. I mean, he's an absolute monster. Buffalo allows the 7th most fantasy points in the league to opposing tight ends this year. It's one of the weakest points of their defense. Love Travis Kelce. To try to be different, look, everyone's going to play him. I have him projected at 65%, between 56 and 60% ownership today. Love Travis Kelce. He's going to get double-digit targets. Dawson Knox, the difference is the Chiefs allow the 6th most fantasy points at tight ends. They're not any good either. The difference is Josh Allen throws to his tight ends maybe once or twice a game, so you're hoping for that red zone target. If you want to be contrarian, Dawson Knox is the play, but of course, get yourself some Travis Kelce. You're crazy not to do it. Good chance he's the highest scoring player on the slate today.
Yeah, it should be fun here. Defense is just coming down. Chiefs 3,100, Bills 2,800. Going to be a lot of high scoring points. So what do you want to hopefully get some turnovers, some sacks in those? But I still went with the Tampa Bay Bucks at 2,700. Again, even though I think they're going to lose that game, I think they have the best chance to force turnovers and possibly get sacks. But again, and I keep saying again, because anything can happen on these defenses, and you're basically hoping a tipped pick 6 and there you go. But who gets that? We don't know, obviously.
Yeah, you're flipping a coin here. There's not like some great analysis like, here you go, you're going to get all the points, and I have the crystal ball.
Steelers, Jacksonville. Yeah, I mean, we don't get that today. So.
These are 4 and guys, give us one more thumbs up, 323. We need one more for 100, for Christ's sake. Can't believe I have to keep asking for this. Get it done. Thank you very much. Defensively, so the 2 defenses I have the most exposure to, number 1 for me is the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Because I do think that Josh Allen is more turnover prone than would be Patrick Mahomes. There's going to be more of a running game for the Chiefs. The ball, it's not going to be 5 wide in a cloud of dust for Patrick Mahomes. So I will say Josh Allen, we've seen him make mistakes in the playoffs before. I know not this year so far. He's been fairly solid. I don't think he was great against Baltimore. Remember some of those mistakes last year against the Texans? I still think he's more error prone than Patrick Mahomes. So I will take the Chiefs. And then my second most highest owned defense, I'm with you. Even though I think the Packers win, I have the Tampa Bay Bucs because, again, I think they could cause more turnovers than the Packers defense. So, yeah, and they're cheap. So, again, it's a coin flip. You're hoping – I have exposure to all 4 defenses because I'm a degenerate, of course. Most of us are, and that's what makes us all beautiful and why we spend our Sunday afternoons together. But Chiefs, Buccaneers are my top 2 defenses this week.
Good stuff here as we wrap up here about 10 minutes outside of kickoff. Nothing has changed for me this week. I put out very early on Twitter that I already placed wagers on the Kansas City Chiefs and Green Bay Packers, both at -3, differentiating juices on those from previous. But my score predictions, Green Bay Packers 28, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20. Second game, I got more points in this one, 33 by the Chiefs, 24 by the Buffalo Bills. Those are my 2 games I'm going with today. 2 home teams, 2 rested teams, the better quarterback on both sides. I'm riding.
Well, it's going to be boring because of me here. I'm with you. I've got Green Bay at home as well and Kansas City. I will change it up a little bit. I'll take the under 53. Oh, I think 28-24. I've actually got the Tampa Bay over 23.5 team total as well. Yeah. So I'm really treading a line here. Like not all of these are going to win. If they do, fantastic. And I'll brag about it on Twitter. It'll be a lot of fun. If none of them happen, then yeah, you won't hear shit from me and I'll just be drunk in my living room. But I do hope you all have a great time. I think, Donnie, so many times you just took the words right out of my mouth. Absolutely fantastic analysis. This is going to be a lot of fun. Good luck to everyone out there. And I'm with you. Chiefs, Packers in the Super Bowl. That's what I think we see.
Good stuff. NFL Championship Sunday. Thank you for spending with us over the past hour. Had a lot of fun going over prop bets, side bets, total bets, who's in, who's out. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to. 3:05 kickoff here between Tampa Bay and Green Bay. As I'm watching on the monitor here, looks like a cold day in the frozen tundra of Green Bay. No football games next week. We'll have a show, however, on Tuesday to sort of talk over what happened on NFC, AFC Championship Sunday, and they look forward to the Super Bowl. Then we'll get ready for some great content here at sportsbookreview.com for Super Bowl week. Who's it going to be? I got to tell you, either way it goes here, Kyle, who wins today, it's going to be a fantastic Super Bowl we'll have fun with. But I'll have just a little bit more fun if Tampa Bay is not included in these festivities, even though the game is played in Tampa Bay. Thanks for joining us today on the show. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this was your NFC AFC Championship Sunday show. Good luck on